Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sabrina Blasik, and on behalf of Harvard Bookstore and the French Library, I'm so excited to welcome you to our virtual event with Anne Scott, presenting her newly translated best-selling novel Superstars in conversation with Benoit Landon. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping items. I want to thank you for joining us virtually today. You can find our full event schedule at harvard.com/events, where you can also sign up for our email newsletter and shop our shelves from home. Today's discussion will conclude with some time for your questions. If you have a question for our speakers at any time during the talk, click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and type in your question. We'll get through as many as time allows. If you can't see a Q&A button, hit more at the bottom of your screen and you should be able to access it from there. In the chat, I'll be posting a link to purchase Superstars on harvard.com. Your purchases truly make events like today's possible and help ensure the future of a landmark independent bookstore. I'd also like to take a moment to thank our co-sponsor, the French Library, a nonprofit U.S. organization that provides the general public with affordable access to language and cultural education programs. You can learn more about them at frenchlibrary.org. And finally, as you have no doubt experienced in virtual gatherings, technical difficulties may arise. If they do, we'll do our best to resolve them as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for your understanding. And now I'm so delighted to introduce tonight's speakers. Anne Scott is the author of 10 novels. Her most recent novel, Les Insolents, won the 2023 Prix Renaudot in France. Benoit Landon is a journalist and librarian at the French Library, where he hosts book clubs and literary talks. Today, we will be discussing Anne Scott's newly translated novel, Superstars, a bestseller in France when it was published in 2000, and one of the premier French cult novels of the last 30 years. Superstars is a tender and combative portrait of Paris's queer rave scene in the 90s, illuminating the oft-obscured underground spaces where queer people organized, built community, and made art. We're so pleased to be hosting this event. The digital floor is yours, Anne and Benoit.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, the Harvard Bookstore, for organizing this event, and welcome, Anne Scott. I'm really happy to be hosting this conversation. I want to start so this book, as it was said in the introduction, was published in 2000 in France, and it became a classic. So I'm kind of curious, 26 years later, what do you remember of that time your book was published and how it was received in France?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I remember there was a lot of talk about the story, but none about the writing itself. It was seen as like a phenomenon, because there was some drugs and some sex scene and stuff like that. But it wasn't like the birth of a writer or anything. So it was quite disappointing, but it was exciting because when you're 30 something, you start earning money and people recognize you and you get sponsored to wear stupid clothes wherever you go on TV and all that. But as a writer, it wasn't very satisfying. I can't say that. But then again, at 30, you don't really care. So
you don't care because it was successful, or you don't care because you just move on?
I don't know. You don't care because you don't take yourself seriously yet, I think. Maybe.
I also saw on Instagram you posted when you learned about the fact that this novel would be translated in English. You said 25 years I was hoping that. Why were you so impatient for having your book translated? Are you expecting like a different like people seeing it in a different way in the US?
Well, it's 26 years later. It's a different culture. It's a different generation. I'm Gen X. I don't know who's going to read it now, but yeah, I'm quite intrigued to see how it works. But mostly, I had never been translated into English before. Several other languages, but not English, and not in America or England. And most of my friends are foreigners. So it's really frustrating when you have friends, who speak different languages than yours and you can't share your work with them. But I'm happy it's this book and not another, because another would just be like a book you read on the train. This one, could eventually bring something in. I wrote it as the book I'd like to read. So when there's kids reading, you talk to them about their lives, or they feel like their lives is like yours. That's way more interesting than when you write a book about an adult. This is about post teenagers, and I'm not saying that a book about adults can't change an adult's life. It's just that you want people who are your age now to feel less lonely than you were at their age 20 years ago. Do you know what I mean? So if it can bring anything to anyone, like to the gay community, or even just people who have questions about their identity, or even music, just music taste, it's a big thing when you're 30. Music is everything. I mean, for some kind of people. So yeah, I'm curious.
You were talking about identity. I think it's a very important theme of this book. In Superstar, we are following Louise, who's a woman in her 30s trying to make it in the music industry. And she's torn between two worlds, the world of techno, which is linked to homosexuality, and the world of rock, which is linked to heterosexuality. And one thing I was wondering is, why is it important for her to choose one? Because that's the whole point of the novel, is like going one way or the other.
Because I think when you're a teenager, it's a whole thing, with the music come the clothes, come the idols, come everything. And whether you listen to rock and roll or techno music, you really don't dress the same when you're that age anyway. It's not the same. How do you say repère?
Like like a landmark or something like this.
Well, it's okay. This is going to sound weird, but I was wondering at the time. Well, I was bisexual, and I was wondering at the time why I liked some kind of men, and I disliked some other kind, and I liked some kind of girls, and I disliked some other kind. And I realized that in techno, boys were really boring, and the only guys I found sexy played rock and roll, but the girls in the rock and roll did nothing for me. I thought they were cuter in the techno world. So maybe that identity problem has to do with that, but it's quite personal. But somehow, some other people felt, maybe not, they didn't feel the same, but they wondered where they stood. Today is completely different. People are open. The people who are open, they're open to anything. They have lots of labels, everything. In this book, it's just this girl not knowing what she wants, that's all.
Yeah, you were
There's
about
no
bisexuality.
statement. There's no statement in that book. It's not about
Yeah,
LG. I don't even know what are the letters, the order LG.
LGBTQAI
I've
plus.
never learned them. I don't know them. And there's no trans people because I didn't know any, but it's just people are what they are. Today they are what they say they are, which is completely different. So I
Yeah,
don't know
because
how
in sorry.
I don't know what it's going to feel like for people who need that label to dive into a world when there was no label. I don't know. Maybe they're going to find it a bit thin, or maybe they're going to find it that there's a freedom in there that is not today.
Yeah, there's a character saying in the book, bisexuality doesn't exist. It's pretty interesting to read that today, because I feel like this idea, as you were saying, of label changed so much. How do
Well,
you reflect on that?
some people would seem to think that being bisexual means you like 50-50 anytime, any day, whatever. It's not like that. You kind of have a preference, but you're open to the other sex as well. But you kind of have a preference. Then again, I don't know. I've been with men and women, and nothing, never at the same time. But it changes me. I'm not the same person with both. That's what I found interesting. But that's just me. I'm very different when I'm with a boy than with a, well, not boy. Obviously, I don't mean child, but with a man than with a woman. It's different. But we never needed at the time to talk about labels. Like I'm pansexual, this, that. I don't even know what it means.
Uh, one big theme, of course, is music in Superstar. I mean, the title says it all, which is a passion you share with your main character, Louise. You used to be a drummer. You wrote songs for a pretty famous rock band in France called Indochine. So I was wondering, why did you become like a superstar in writing and not music, or what was more interesting
Oh, uh,
for you in writing than music?
uh, I think that to have a great band as a musician, you need to have the chemistry. You need to meet the right people. I never met anyone. I played a bit of guitar, I played a bit of drums, but I never met anyone who had, enough to become whatever, Radiohead or Oasis or whatever. You need to have something that keeps you together. I've never had that. So I wasn't going to be a solo artist. I'm not good at music and I can't sing.
But why is it so inspiring for you? Because
Well,
you talk about Bowie, you talk about the
I
Rolling
don't know, but
Stone, Björk.
why are some kids loners at school, and why do some young adults get into drugs, and why do some get married when they're 20 and some never do? Why do some do what their parents did or right the opposite? Why do you fall into counterculture? I don't know. Probably because you got too much time on your own, and your parents are not really there for you. So you have imaginary friends, and whether they're writers or if you have an imaginary friend when you're 8 year old, you can still have an imaginary one when you're 20, except it's going to be like a writer who died. It's going to be Jack Kerouac or whatever. You just, you fight loneliness, I suppose.
This
Or you just like art. Sorry. You just like art, whatever art, You could have a passion for sculpture or painting when you're 12. That's possible. Less likely if your parents are not, teaching you that, but I don't know. Why do kids want to be rock stars and others want to be accountant? I don't know. Probably it comes from solitude and pain, I'd say, to transgress whatever you're at. I don't know.
uh, Another thing that is interesting is that the title is Superstar, but in the book, the characters are looking for a more underground world, and I think it's kind of a contradiction because you cannot be a superstar if you live in the underground world.
Well, the book came from Andy Warhol's superstars at the factory who were all, creatures and freaks, and they were the real superstars in the second half of the 60s, not the people on the stage. So I think it comes from there, you know.
And you also talk about a major shift, like with in the 90s. So rock has become mainstream, and techno is about to leave the same, become mainstream as well. When it used to be like only like underground scenes, and
Mhm.
like a few people were like into this. What does it change? Like when something like this, when underground becomes mainstream?
Euh, comment dire récupérer? C'est récupérer.
Euh, dans quel sens?
La presse récupère les choses, des choses qui sont, c'est récupéré, transformé, dévoyé. C'est, it's anytime
Retrieve.
something is underground, it's interesting. As soon as it becomes mainstream, it's always for the wrong reasons. It's always to cash in, and it's like I don't know, Haight Ashbury in the mid '60s in San Francisco. It's the same. It was great until it wasn't, and that's the way it is. And suddenly, you've got a few DJs here and there in clubs, in befores, in afters, and all of a sudden, it's everywhere. You can't go to a restaurant without having a DJ on the side while you're eating, and then when that happens, it's over.
Why is it over? Because there's a culture, because it more
Because
people have access to it.
anything that's interesting has to be it's kind of misfits, As soon as everybody's the same, what's the point of still being like that? If you're gonna have to I'm talking about when you're a kid, okay? I'm 60, obviously it's a bit different now. I don't think that way anymore. But when you're 30, you want to make sure that you get some boots that nobody else has. So they're on the ground by essence. As soon as everybody can buy them, they're mainstream. You're not interested anymore. You want to be different. You don't want to be the same. So it's like it's the same with music. You want to keep it your thing when you're a kid. Because when you're a kid, it's your family. Even if you like yours, you can find a second family in that.
So how does it make you feel that your book was not underground because it was a huge success?
Uh, that's a good question. I think that um, I'm not. I don't mind money. I don't mind success. I don't mind, the problem with what is happening now is that people want to be famous for things. There's two different words in French, if you can help me translate. One is notoriété, the other one is célébrité. The first one is you get known for what you do. The second one is you get famous for who you are. That's completely different, you know?
Yeah, it's fame and public attention.
Yeah, well, it's when you do something, you're happy with it, and you're happy that it works, that other people relate, that people talk to you and say, I'm glad, I'm happy I read your book. I connected to what you're talking about. I felt less lonely. That is always really beautiful. You bump into someone who's, I don't know, 14, 16, 18, whatever, and says, I felt less lonely reading your book. What else is there? This is pure joy, it's the simplest thing. It's not about fame. It's not about who you're dating. It's not about who you've been seen with at this party. It's just this kid comes up to you and says, you helped me. And again, it's about being there for people who are as unhappy at their age as you were at the time. I mean, I don't know what your childhood was like. Mine was lovely. My parents were lovely, but just weren't there. You know what Gen X was like. We were just on our own. And suddenly there's like this whole family. We all dress the same. We all wear the stupid clothes and listen to the same music. We go to concerts, and yeah, there's something going on that I'm not sure you find out when you go to a concert of Beyonce or Travis Scott or stuff like that. I mean, it's the same. It's festivals, it's huge, but you don't feel at home. Again, it's fighting against loneliness, I think, which might not happen if you have five brothers, but I'm a single child. I don't want to make it about me because I'm not the character in the book. But I think everything you do as a teen is to break away from something, whether it's your family, whether it's school, whether it's being bullied, anything, being raped by parents, whatever abuse. There's always abuse when you're a kid. You can only be abused as a child because everybody picks on you. You're very vulnerable. So everything helps. You listen, whether you're in the 60s and you listen to Dylan singing whatever, or you're in America listening to Springsteen in the 80s, whatever, at some point he or she is going to say something that you can relate to, and you're less lonely. That is great. It's the best feeling. Even at 60, like, yeah, it's the best feeling. You're not
And
convinced.
this idea of superstar, it's interesting. Yeah, you link it to war, but I feel like, uh, and before the interview, we were talking about how your book was received in France. I think that there was huge publicity and you had a huge success, but don't you lose your um the essence of your art when you are like that famous because it's not about your work, it becomes more about you as an artist rather than
Mm,
your book, what you write, what you are trying to
no,
say.
you start losing yourself when you start believing what is said about yourself. But nothing was said about me. All that was being said is, there was sex and drugs and music in the book, and there was the money. You don't lose yourself just because you live in a more comfortable way. And also, I don't know if I can say that. I don't want to go on that subject, but I was on drugs the whole time. So when you're on drugs, you're not really listening to anything that's being said to you. You're just having fun or not. But, you can't be booked. When you're on drugs, you cannot be booked by someone, whatever is people are telling you about yourself, you don't care. You really don't. So no, no, no. And no, success is necessary because if you have to be hungry to write something really strong, but you can be hungry another way than, having no heating in winter and starving. You can be hungry of something else than just money. And you can only be bought if you could be bought anytime. If you can't be bought by someone, you can never be bought. It's really in you, whether you're for sale or you're not. And we're all for sale, but at different prices and different. Ask the question again. I'll try to give you a better answer because I think I lost myself there.
Yeah. No, but I was also thinking when you were talking about sex and drugs in your book, and I think that's what comes up the most when we uh, read or talk about this book, or when people are talking about this book, and when people are talking about book written by women. If you think about this Canadian writer Nelly Arcan, if you think about so many women who wrote about sex and uh, drugs, we don't really look at the writing. We look at
Yeah.
like the appeal is the sex and the drug, and I think it was helpful for you to
Well, I mean, it was like I was trying to do a choreography, when it's like when you're sculpting or when you're writing a ballet, it's just gesture and you want the scenes to you want to create a flow. That's why I describe the sex. I'm not interested in that any more than any other, and I don't care about the drugs. It's just something that these people and I did that was, 25 years ago. Now I don't know how where kids stand today towards that. So I have no idea how you can. I don't even know what kind of sexual life they have. I'm old. I don't know anyone under 45. So I don't know what the sex life is like. I don't know if they take drugs, whatever. I have no idea. I wrote that because it was there. I didn't feel like writing about this. It was there, so I described it. It's like, you have a story. Your story is it's like a little stone. It's precious to you. It can be an event, a person, a place. It can be a pain, a feeling, whatever. And you have to sculpt it, carve it, cut it, and then you have to put it in a little box so it looks good in the box. And then you have to put it in a house or a castle. If you're a girl, you're going to think of a castle because it's a little girl's dream. And the whole time you're building something around it. And everything that's in the book is just background to one thing, which is a heartbreak. And that's it. It's a love affair that is cut short and somebody gets hurt, and that's it. And everything else is what was happening at the time. If we'd been in, I don't know, New York 76, instead of techno, you would have had Patti Smith. I would have described what was around. I just used what was there. I was never a techno fan.
oh,
I find it interesting, but that's not where I come from. That's not what I love. I can listen to it. I find it interesting, but I couldn't care less. There's no words in there. I need words.
one thing I like also is all the references to the 90s. As I was saying, there is Björk, the Stones, David Bowie. There's also this famous tattoo artist, Tintin.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting because I think it's the Gen X is the last generation who lived before like the big boom of internet, smartphone, etc. And it's funny the role that landline plays in your book, the phone. So,
Mm-hmm.
what was so special about that time? Do you think? Yeah, what was so special about that time, according to, when you look back?
Well, there was no phones. There was no social network. So whenever you were going to betray someone, it had to be done kind of face to face. You couldn't do it on social networks. There was no bullying. There was just fun. I mean, if you're gonna go out and listen to music, you go out to dance or to get stoned if that's people's thing. But it's not social at all. Somebody asked me once after that book came out, how come they don't have any family, they have no parents, and they don't have political views? And I was really embarrassed, saying that they're too busy having fun. They couldn't care less. I mean, you're 30, 35, you go to clubs, you don't talk about your parents or who you vote for. Have you ever even voted at 30? Now people are way more involved in what is going on, climate change, everything. And that is great. At the time, we had AIDS, but it was already over. Do you know what I mean? It was there, but it's not the 80s, it's the 90s. And we just got really lucky. I mean, come on, we had Massive Attack, we had early Marilyn Manson, we had Tricky, we had so many bands. It was great. But then we didn't have Gaza, we didn't have climate change, we didn't have the epidemic of fentanyl that you have in the States. We didn't have all these horrible things. So it was okay. It was okay to have fun and not care, because there wasn't much to care about. Today, you get your heart broken every 5 seconds today. You're not even in the mood to party anymore.
Yeah, do you know, like, with the dating app, I'm sure like your book will have been so
Oh
different
my
because
God, no, no. I mean, no phone, no social networks, no dating app, no nothing. You just go to a club and you look at somebody. And if you're lucky, that person who's going to come up to you is not going to come for the wrong reasons. That is if you're lucky, which is not the subject of that book. That's about someone being really unlucky, going with the wrong person. It's just, it's a small crowd, it's a small scene, and it's like working in an office, everybody talking behind everybody's back and all that shit. This is what it is, it's small. Un milieu.
yeah,
A scene is
like a
always,
group. Yeah.
yeah, it's tiny. And it's not the most creative ever, ever. In the US, you have New York in the mid 70s, you have CBGB, you have Max Kansas City, you have places like these where you had groups that were crazy good. And that was a real fun. And even these people now say, well, it wasn't actually. So you just do what you can, you're a teenager, maybe a bit older than a teenager, and you do what you can. That's it, really. And it doesn't have to go through drugs, and it doesn't have to go through hard sex. Just happened to be there. It could have been the same story with no drugs and soft sex, whatever. Somebody falls in love and gets her heart broken. End of story. And the rest is just the noise around it.
One character I also want to talk about is Inez.
Mm.
So I don't want to say too much about her for the people who haven't finished the book. But she's a 17-year-old student uh, who is in a few relationship with a 30-year-old woman. And
Yeah, do you think it would be illegal now? Is that what you're gonna ask me? I don't have no idea. I don't I
it
I don't I don't know if, yeah, I read a comment somewhere a while ago which said that the girl who wrote the comment said if she could step into the book, she would take this 17-year-old out and pull her out from there. And I thought, well, this 17-year-old came in there, decided to sleep with everybody, decided to take the drugs. Should he be protected? Yes, but not by my character. My character was a predator in that case. There's some people who are going to go around in clubs and take the kids out, and some others are just going to have fun with them. And was she that young? I don't even know. I don't remember. Was it wrong? Probably. Is it wrong? I think she was way more into drugs and sex than me. But is that an excuse? I don't want to sound like, what's his name? who's just been, who everybody's talking about because he slept with a 16-year-old. What's his name? Russell Brand.
Russell.
I don't want to sound as stupid as him. So I don't know. It wasn't transgressing anything. It wasn't forbidden. And no one ever come up to me and said, hey, wait, this person's too young. And maybe I was so immature I didn't even realize. I don't know. If I had to answer for it today, I would. And if that person came up to me and said, you messed me up, I'd apologize. I think she went on to mess up other people after me. So I don't know.
No, in my question, I wrote that she was never forced to do anything, and I think every reader can see this. She seemed like vulnerable, and she's taking a lot of drugs. So now I was just curious how you were seeing a character like this today, because we had so much turmoil in France over the past 5, 6 years, after Me Too, after the guy like Matzneff, etc. So I'm curious to know how you see his character today, or if it's a character that could exist in your writing today.
Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to tell you what I think I should say. I'm going to say something else, which is I should have known better. If you're going to sleep with a 17-year-old, you are going to get your heart broken because they're too young. They don't know what they're doing. And you believe in something you shouldn't believe in. You want a future where there is no future. You cannot have a future if you're 30. I don't know how old I was, 30, 32. You cannot have a future with a 17-year-old. What do you do with that? It's so young, after all. But at the time, it didn't feel like that. It felt like someone really sexy. And I didn't even realize, that the person was too young. But if I was to do it again, I wouldn't, not because it's against the law, but because it's boring. What can you talk about with a 17-year-old? They're just out there to prove themselves. This one was out there to prove herself and to try to sleep with as many people as possible in the group. And everybody said no. And I was weak. I said, okay, I shouldn't have. Because it was the wrong person, not because she was 17, but this question is difficult because I didn't even realize that at the time. I don't want to sound today like, I'm a horrible person. I wouldn't do that again. Was she a child? Probably because of the age. Was she a child? I don't know. This is slippery.
Yeah, of course. No, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. It's just interesting to
I
to
don't
look
know.
back. And
If somebody says it's wrong, then it is wrong. I'm not going,
yeah.
I can't disagree. Did it feel wrong at the time? No, but maybe it was. It's possible, yeah.
Mm. One theme I really like also in the book is a solitude, because I think it's also in your last book, Les Insolents, published in France in 2023. It's also an important theme. It's like loneliness, solitude, because in the book, Louise is surrounded by so many people. She's going out, she's
Yeah.
meeting a lot of, but she's so lonely. Um,
Well, is there anything worse than feeling alone in the middle of a crowd, in the middle of your friends? I mean, that's terrible. I don't know. I think that there's how do you say lâcher prise? There's something when you're with a group, you are the group. And I was never able to blend in. I've always felt lonely whenever. Like I'm good at one-on-one. As soon as the two, three people in a room, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. Does it come from the fact that I'm a how do you say enfant unique,
a single child.
single child? I don't know, but I mean most of my friends are either married or single. But I don't know anyone who's dating and having fun, and it's just maybe because we get old, we know what we don't want. But everybody's lonely. I mean, why do we go on Instagram? What for? Yeah, we're learning things. We're seeing beautiful things across the world with lots of opportunities, but it's not what it is anymore, is it? So yeah, she goes out but the simple fact that you go out every night at 30 is because you're lonely. Why would you go out every night? You're tired in the morning, you don't see daylight. What for? Why would you do that?
And writing is also an activity that is very where you feel lonely, how is it better than for you than going out?
Sometimes it's way too lonely. Then, as soon as you do something as a team, you realize that the more people, the more des avis différents. The more people, the more opinions, the more you have to. You're better off on your own. You're like comment on dit chef d'orchestre, conductor, music
Yeah,
conductor. You do everything. You do the violin. You do the piano. You do everything, and that is very. That feels great, but it's if you're a writer and you're with someone, you're gonna be horrible to the person you're with, and if you're on your own, you're gonna be terribly, terribly lonely. It's not easy unless you're a kid now and you have other interests. You're a writer, but you do other things. You go out, you socialize, you do lots of things. You're not on your own. But if you come from the past, past generations, you're just on your own. You have friends, you have people who love you, but you feel alone. How can you not feel alone today, How can you not feel alone today? Even if we all share the same concerns, we just, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm
yeah.
digressing again.
No, it's good.
That, but you're
It's
throwing the
interesting.
ball in directions that are too far, and I go far, far, far away from your question, and you have to, you cut me when I do that.
I like it. Um, so about the writing too. I
Can
know.
I
Oh,
cut you? You
yeah,
know
yeah,
Bret Easton Ellis. You know Bret Ellis.
yeah.
He said, "Any good writing comes from pain." I think that's what it is. There's very few writers who wrote about happiness, and you can write about beauty inside the pain. But you always start writing because you have something to say, and it's rarely because you want to say, "My God, the stars are beautiful tonight." Why does it hurt you to look at the stars? They're beautiful, but why is it painful? And why do you want to describe it? It always comes from pain. And it can just be existential pain. I've never been abused. I haven't been raped. My parents didn't hit me. It's just being alive, in a place where is there a God? Has he died? Was he never there? What is going on? I mean, it's not easy to be
Yeah.
happy with that. So you are alone, yeah. I don't know if I. So it comes from pain, yeah, but just the pain of existential being alive. That's all. That's a pain in itself, which is a luxury compared to people in Gaza who are not in pain. When they're alive, they're alive. It's survival. This, I'm talking from here now, today. I'm not in Gaza. If I was in Gaza, would be talking about something else. We'd be talking about food. We'd be talking about wounds, body parts being blown up. It's different, It's a luxury of being existentially unhappy. How silly is that?
But the interesting part about this is there is pain, but there's also willing to make it. Like we can feel that. We can feel some rage in Louise. Like she goes through all the emotions, but she's also she's ready to fight. So this pain is not there for nothing.
Well, I don't think we write for anyone else but ourselves. But once you've written, you really hope it's going to help somebody else. You really do. Because everybody's heart is heartbroken. Some people choose to stay with the pain. Some others want to put a lead on it. Some others want to go head on with it. It's all different, but we're all with the same pain. Whether it's real heartbroken or ego, it hurts the same. It hurts more when you actually really love the person, but it's so rare. Most of the time, you just love the love or the feeling, the way the person makes you feel. This is the case with this book. I loved the way I felt, the person itself. I'm not so sure there was anything there.
So I have one more question, and after I'm gonna read the question in the chat. I see already uh, two questions. So my last question is about your inspiration because your name is Anne Scott, and I've read. Tell me if I'm wrong. that it was inspired by Francis Scott Fitzgerald. And you also said your writing was very inspired, at the beginning at least, by Burroughs. So can you tell us more about these two writers, how they inspired you?
I was in London when I was 18. I was a model, and my last name in French is two different words. It's a bit long, and someone said, you should call yourself Scott because of Fitzgerald. Someone who was reading Gatsby at the time said that. I just started writing as well while modeling. So I thought, okay, cool. And I looked in directory, the annuaire.
The phone book? Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw that there's a woman called Anne Scott who was a Cold Girl agency. I thought it was funny, just goofing around at 18. So I took the name. And as for Boris, yeah, the first people I read were the same winter. I read Boris, I read Hubert Selby, who was my favorite. I read John Fonte. I read everybody from the Beat Generation I could find. And I read Less Than Zero. Basically, all around the publication. I think it was in England. So I don't know what year that was, 85, 4, I don't know. And it felt, I read him and I read, what's his name? Jay McInerney. And this girl who wrote The Slaves of New York. I don't know how you say her name. Tamar Janovitz. And I thought, they're talking about my life. If they can do it, I can do it. And that's it. I'm not saying I started writing after reading Less Than Zero, but this is the year I read all these people. I started writing because I heard a song by Nina Simone on the radio, and she was telling a story. And I was sitting in a garden, and I would think a really beat up garden with a mattress there and a broken buffed up there in a squat. And I was thinking, she's telling a story. I want to do that. And that's what happened. I started reading because do you remember Joan Didion? She said, we tell, what's the exact quote? We tell ourselves stories in order to live. That's what writers do. They write, to stay interested in life, because life is so dull and so hard at the same time. It's so painful. So we write stories, and we write them for others at some point. We first write them for ourselves and then for others, so they can feel less lonely as well. Yeah.
It's interesting, the Beat generation. We can really feel the inspiration from the Beat generation, because there's so much, a lot of rhythm in the book. It goes fast, and it's like, it's chaotic, and I was thinking about, Kerouac.
Yeah, well, that's different. That was a man, and he was drinking. I don't drink, so whatever. At the time I wrote this book, I had never heard a jazz record. So Kerouac has a lot to do with bebop and Charlie Parker and jazz, and I like jazz now, but I didn't at the time. So it's an accident if it does sound like Kerouac. It wasn't mimetic, I wasn't copying him. I didn't. I wouldn't have what it takes to write like Kerouac. He was wild. He was wild. I'm not wild at all. The people in the book might be, in Superstar might be wild, but I'm not at all.
And in your writing, you're not, like, it's not, because Kerouac, you wrote the whole thing on like one long page. For you, was it more like a long process, or was it short?
I rewrite for hours. Yeah. Kerouac wrote on a piece of paper that was miles long, almost. Yeah. I think a whole mile long. No, I rewrite. I sculpt and sculpt and sculpt for hours and hours.
So I'm going to take the comments and question. So first one we got is from Madeline, who says, as a young lesbian trans woman and avid LGBTQ plus historian, I'm extremely excited to read this new translation. Thank you for your writing and translating it.
Well, so that's not a question. But that is very kind, because I'm not sure this book did anything for somebody who would be trans, because I didn't know any at the time. There's none in the book. I think L Word was more generous than me with that, the L Word. There was a character like that. And also because of again, if it's a problem to have slept with somebody who was 17, if it's a problem to have done so many drugs and so much sex and all that, then I can only apologize for whoever is going to read it now, because I don't want to hurt anyone.
Yeah,
I
but
really
it's
don't. I
amazing
really
to.
don't. And I don't want to. I don't want to sound like, oh, I did this. It's on you now. Whatever. I really hope this is not gonna. You have They have a word, and Americans have a word. Two words that we don't have in French, which is safe and trigger. These are words that are not part of our daily vocabulary, whatever age we are. So, since I know that in America it's important to feel safe in what you do, and it's important not to be triggered. You even have websites that say which triggers about movies and all that. So I don't know if I need to apologize, but I can only say I hope nothing's gonna hurt anyone. This is just a trip, you know. You get on it or you don't. It's nothing serious. It's just a love affair going wrong. Like, but you know, there's no head chopped off. It's different kind of violence.
But it was bold to publish what you did, because if you look back, 2000 doesn't seem that far, but when you watch TV from the 2000, that was still terrible. So writing about like bisexuality and putting this at the center of your work was that was rare.
Yeah, but the thing is that I never thought, oh, I should write about this. Oh, I have things to say about this. Again, my heart was broken, and I decided to write something that was autobiographical. And at the same time, it never is entirely. It's half fiction, half autobiography. And I just did it for myself. It was a survival. You know, when you get your heart broken, you want the story to go on. And if it doesn't, you want the pain to stay with you because it reminds you that you feel something. And if the pain is taken away from you, you end up with no love, no pain, nothing. You're empty. It's awful. So you stay in the pain. And that book was just to stay in the pain. That's it, really. It wasn't to help anyone. Afterwards, I'm hoping it might, you know, help some people. I don't know.
We have another question from an anonymous viewer. So the question is, on the level of writing sentences and composing your books, do you feel like you have the same goal as you did when Superstars came out? Or do you feel like your writing is coming from a different place today or striving for a different kind of effect?
Oh, at the time I wanted to be Truman Capote, and I was quite sure I was making it, and I really wasn't. Now I want to be Don DeLillo, and I know I never will. So I'm just, you know, I don't know. I want to get better. I want to do something that matters more than just. I want to be more than that, you know. For me, I don't care if I'm not remembered when I'm gone, but I want to be more. I want to try to match the people I look up to. And the people I look up to are not the people who are writing the same books as me and the same age as me and the same generation. I look up to just a bunch of dead ones, you know,
Like who?
like Hemingway,
Uh,
like Faulkner, like the Russians, not Dostoevsky, but Tolstoy, like anyone who was there before, you know, and who taught us to write. I don't care about Superstar as it's not. It's a story. It's just a story. You know, you have to have a story to write a book. The question is, do you write a book because you have a story, or do you live a story to be able to write about it? And it's not so easy to find the answer. At first, it's my God, I have to write about this, otherwise I'm going to die. And then 20 years later, you just think, well, I needed a story. I had to write a book. I don't know. You know, most of the things that writers say, can I swear? Most of the
I
things that writers
guess.
say is full of shit. It's just creating a persona or stuff like that. You just do what you can and try to do your best and do better than that if you can. Because people are going to give their time and their money to read you. And if you bore them, you can't do that. You can't do that. It's not right. You're there to entertain people or make them think or interest them in what's happened to you, whatever. But you don't think about it. You just write with what you have, you know. You have to. I'm gonna drift in a direction where I don't know what I'm talking about. Go on. Bring it back.
If anyone has more questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I was just curious because in France, you received like it's called a Prix Renaudot, so it's a literary award, like probably the second most prestigious award in France.
Yeah.
For you, I know a lot of writers really don't care about this type of thing. Is it the same for you?
When you don't have it, you don't care because you think you're never gonna get it. When you have it, it doesn't really matter because you never have it for your favorite book. You never know why you have it. Is it because they didn't want to give it to somebody else? You don't really know. What you know is that all of a sudden you sell way more, and suddenly you have more money for the next book. You're more comfortable. You got more heating. You got more food on the table, and you can carry on. That's what it's for. Other than that, I don't know what it means. We have words that like the Pulitzer, the Booker Prize. These are words, but we don't know, unless it happens to you. You don't know what it means. It doesn't mean anything. Think of Hemingway, Steinbeck. It almost killed them to have the prices they had. They hated it. It's horrible. It's a pressure. It's But you cannot say I hate it because you don't hate selling more, earning more money, eating better food, putting more heating on in winter. You cannot. You're a hypocrite if you say you hate it. And when you don't have one, you want one, but you think you'll never get it. So you think, I don't care, but you actually do. But you don't, but you do, but you don't. Yeah? Does that answer?
But do you think it's poisoning your next work? Like, is it
No,
now
no,
in
because
the back of your
it's
head?
not the Nobel Prize,
Yeah.
So, and thank God it's not the Goncourt, which is the first prize. It's just the second one. They're a bit under. So no, it doesn't. You're going to sell less after because you know why you sell it because it's the prices are in November and it's Christmas, so everybody buys you for Christmas because they're all lazy. They don't know what gifts they can make to the friends and family, so they all buy the prices. Most of the time, they don't read it, and you know that the next one you're not going to sell as many because you're not going to be the choice for Christmas. You're going to sell less. So you might as well just think, okay, it happened. That was great. Now back to normal, I think.
All right.
You have to take the work seriously, not yourself. It's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Great. I
think.
think we can finish on that. Thank you everyone for participating to this conversation. Thank you so much, Anne Scott, for being with us tonight and tonight for you, yes. And drifting away, it's always interesting when writers do that during an interview. So thank you. And thank you for Harvard Bookstore for organizing this event. It was lovely. So, as we are about to wrap up, someone is asking is in the chat if you have a new book in mind.
Yeah, I do, but it's going to be years before you hear about it because it's going to be in French first, and then if an American publisher doesn't pick it up right now, unless you read French, you're not going to know. So I don't know. Ask a publisher, ask the ones who published this one to pick up the next one. Hopefully, yeah, that'd be nice. Astra House. But thank you for having me, and thank you for being patient. I'm not very good at this. And I'm not very concise, so you have to control. Otherwise, most of the time I don't know. We talk, we don't know what we're talking about. We have no idea. This is a stress. We think what we should say, and I try to avoid all this. So once I push aside everything that shouldn't be said, I'm left with a complete void that I have to fill really honestly with myself. So half of it maybe makes sense, and the other half I don't know.
I think you are great. And
Thank
in the
you.
chat, everyone is thanking you for this great conversation. So,
Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you,
Thank
Anne
you,
Scott.
Benoit.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.